With the draft merely weeks away, the Lions are in a position where they can possibly attack their biggest problem and get a perfect solution. We're going to talk about it in this episode, folks, so don't you dare go away.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, folks, obviously we know that for the Lions, and obviously for the faithful fans, everybody has the Lions with this whole thought process that they're going to place a huge amount of emphasis on the draft that's upcoming in a couple of weeks, which is absolutely correct because, well, if we think about how the Lions have been the last couple of years, the draft has been where they've made their bread. The draft has been where they've made their money. The draft has been where they have seen the biggest improvements for their team. And obviously the draft is at the end of this month, but I know this. A lot of Lions fans are wondering with great anticipation at what the Lions will do in the draft, and more importantly, who the Lions will make their first selection, to be, what player they're going to get. And honestly, for me, it's one of those things where when you consider all of the information that's available, there are plenty of options as far as who the Lions could potentially go for. But much of the speculation for this draft has been placed upon that the Lions are going to once again go with a very heavy defensive-based draft. But what most people are wanting to know, and I would say most of that's from Lions fans, is who Brad Holmes is going to draft to address the edge rushing position opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. And I'll say this, while a lot of people have talked about various names, myself included, for me, when it comes to this whole situation, I'm going to say this right now. I think the Lions are in a no-lose situation due simply to the fact of where they are currently, not only in comparison to the rest of the NFL as far as teams are concerned, but also in comparison to who we have as our front office team. And I'll tell you why. Again, let's first address the probable and most easy way and quickest way, honestly, that the Lions can solve their edge rushing problem. And the first and easiest way to do that would be to bring back edge rusher Za'Darius Smith. I've said this before, I'll say it again. When it comes to Za'Darius Smith, I have long maintained that the Lions have wanted to bring him back. And recently, Brad Holmes made statements that, hey, they abundantly want to bring him back. They've made it clear they want to bring him back, that he's still an option that's on the table, and that the Lions are interested in him still. And they have maintained contact with him and his agent even after, the release that was done a little while ago. And this, to me, is a perfect situation for the Lions because the Lions are able to do something that few other teams can actually do when it comes to a player like Za'Darius. And what that is this: convince him to take less money. Now, in order to convince a player to take less money, you need to have one of two things going for you. One, you either need to have a great front office that has a good relationship and communication with the player in question, or you need to have a team which currently is in a position to say, hey, we have Super Bowl aspirations, we're considered one of the best in the NFL, and so at that point then you can convince the player to say, hey, because we have all these other needs we're trying to take care of, we're going to ask you to take a little less money than what you normally would, so that way we can use the rest of that money that would have been given to you to spread out to other needs of the team. Now, fortunately, The Lions have both of these things working for them. They have both of thes things in their corner to ensure they have a good opportunity, a good chance to get Za'Darius Smith back. And the other thing that they've got going for them is that, in my honest opinion, based upon, what we had heard, what we have seen, and everything else, it seemed very much so that Za'Darius was happy in his time while he was here in Detroit. And that not only he was happy about being here, he had embraced the city, he had embraced its culture, he had also embraced the team, and likewise everybody else had done the same for him. So for me, the likelihood of the Lions bringing back Za'Darius Smith is pretty likely to occur. At this point, it literally comes down to just two simple things: time and money. And for me, I don't know exactly what that's going to shake out to, but you have to think about it from this perspective. When the Lions got Za'Darius Smith last year, they didn't have to give up a whole hell of a lot to get him. Again, all they did was they traded a 5th-round draft pick this year and a 6th-round draft pick last year, and they got Za'Darius and a 7th-round draft pick in 2026 in order to get him. But when you take a look at that trade, what made it truly great for the Lions is that they paid very little, not only in terms of the draft capital they gave up for him, but also in terms of the actual money they had to give Za'Darius. They only had to pay him $605,000 for the remainder of his 2024 salary cap because the Browns had already covered the majority of it, of the $11.3 million. I mean, when you think about that, that pretty much means the Lions got away with having Za'Darius Smith on their roster with the Browns paying for it last year. And when you think about it, when all the Lions had to do was give him $605,000 to play for, the 8 games he played for us, the Lions got great production out of him for next to nothing. Because again, remember, when Za'Darius Smith was with us, for the 8 games that I'm talking about, he only had 12 tackles, but he had 3 tackles for loss. He also had 4 sacks, and he had 3 run stuffs. I mean, for a guy to come in, you're paying him, in essence, $600,000 to play for 8 games. That is what I call a great return on investment for the Lions. And that is a huge, huge incentive for the Lions to say, hey, this guy still has plenty of stuff left in the tank. This guy can still be a good player for us. And when you think about it from that perspective, with the Lions being a Super Bowl contender, the fact that the Lions have actively stated, yes, we want to bring him back, and the fact that Za'Darius seemed to really enjoy playing here for the Lions, I firmly believe that the Lions will bring him back at some point. Again, it's all about time, it's all about money. And again, I don't know whether it's going to be before the draft. I don't know if it's going to be after the draft. But what I do know is this, and what I'm confident about is this: Za'Darius will probably be back for the Honolulu Blue in 2025. And that is what I believe provides the Lions with this perfect situation that I'm talking about when it comes to their big problem. Because just think about this for half a second. Whether the Lions bring back Za'Darius before or after the draft in this instance that I'm talking about, it's irrelevant. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I am beyond confident that the Lions will be drafting an edge rusher with their 1st-round draft pick this year. And I have speculated as to who I believe they're going to do that with. And again, there have been a number of names that have been, brought up. I still think the Lions could possibly trade up in the 1st round to go and get the guy they really, truly want. But think about this. Whether or not you get Za'Darius back to, before the draft or after the draft, so long as you still get that top edge rusher in the draft and then you get him on top of that, think about this. You've now got Aiden Hutchinson, Za'Darius Smith, the edge rusher from the draft. You've still got Davenport, even as an injury-prone player. When he's healthy, he's pretty damn good. You've also got Muhammad. You've also got McNeil. You've also got freaking Levi. I mean, dude, you've just got a literal rotation of different guys that can play multiple spots across the defensive line and provide pressure in a multitude of ways. That is a beautiful potential option to have and a beautiful, just absolutely catastrophic effect that you're going to have on opposing offensive lines. Now, what potential guy do I think the Lions could go after in the upcoming draft? Well, again, I have speculated that the 3 best options that the Lions could go for are Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., or Jack Sawyer. Now, obviously, these guys are all considered top edge rushers from what they did in college in regards to how much they were able to apply pressure, how much they were able to get sacks, so on and so forth. But the reason I consider these guys, the 3 that I just mentioned, the top edge rushing fits for the Lions is because they're just perfect for what the Lions are in terms of culture, in terms of their style of physical play. Because think about it. The defense is a very, very physical, very aggressive unit. So it requires guys that, obviously, as I just stated, physical. It requires hard workers because that's something that Dan Campbell requires out of all of his players, along with the fact that they're gritty and the fact that they're hungry and they want to win and they want to get better while doing it. In my honest opinion, whether it's Green, whether it's Pierce, whether it's Sawyer, they check off all of those boxes with big, bold check marks. Now, the question that I know everybody wants to have the answer to, it's the $1 million question, is which edge rusher do I think is the best option for the Lions in terms of both cost of potentially, trading up to get them, but also in terms of fit, not only in terms of defensive scheme, but also expected based off of, the college production they had, their experience, so on and so forth. Well, again, I'm not Brad Holmes. I'm not the GM. But for me, if I was to put the 3 into a list of what I think are the best of those 3 for fits for the Lions, I would say number 1 is probably James Pierce. Number 2 would be Jack Sawyer. And then number 3 would be Mike Green. Now, why do I have them in that order? Well, I'm going to say this. It's not meant to be a dog or something on somebody else. I'm not saying that I think less of one more so than the other, but rather based upon what I think is practical, what I think is a reasonable thing that the Lions can swing. Because again, when you think about it, Mike Green, even though he is coming from a college that some people have questions whether or not it could possibly translate very well to the NFL, there is somebody that is probably going to take him in the top 10 just based off of the production he had at Marshall last year and just based upon the physical promise that he provides. But when you take a look at Pierce and you take a look at Sawyer, for me, Pierce is a guy that while he could use a little bit of polish, I think he's the best cultural fit in terms of not only the massive potential that he has based upon what he was able to do in college, but I take a look at him and it's just like, dude, this guy has got a motor that never quits. He's got an excellent work ethic. He just seems to be a perfect embodiment of what this Lions defense is. That then brings us to Jack Sawyer. Now, I know Jack Sawyer is not as flashy in terms of production as what you see in, Pierce or in Green. But the thing that Sawyer has going for him is that he has the best pedigree out of all the guys that I've talked about. He played for Ohio State University. I'll just say this. I don't like Ohio State University. Never have, never will. But I cannot deny, I cannot for a moment try to take away from the fact that Ohio State University is a program that continually and repeatedly, competes for the college football, championship. And with them coming from a Big Ten program, he has continually competed against some of the best that the college, ranks have to offer. So each one of them has something about them that really makes them, something that the Lions would want. The question is, which one do the Lions really want? That is, again, the $1 million question. Nobody really knows the answer to it until we get to actual draft night. But I will say this. I don't know about you, but when it comes to any of those options, I feel that the Lions will be able to get somebody that's really damn good. And again, when you have all these other things that I just talked about prior to naming them off, all of the guys that we are potentially or already have on the roster. The fact that this defense was able to do what it was able to do last year with all of the injuries. The fact of the culture that we have that, absolutely not only instills, but it motivates the players to get the best out of themselves by competing with one another, but just because they naturally want to get better. For me, I think that the Lions are in a position where it's like, listen, you bring back Za'Darius, whether it's before or after the draft, you get that top guy you're looking for in the edge rushing department, and you plug him into this defense, you're in a no-lose situation. And that's why I think the Lions are as encouraged, as confident, and as excited as they are about what they've got going for them heading into this draft. Because it's like, listen, they've already brought back a lot of the guys they had last year, both offense and defense. So it's like, okay, so long as we can stay healthy on defense and we can add a couple of pieces where we feel we really need to do so, which obviously is the edge rushing department, because as Holmes stated, he's like, listen, we're not looking just for one guy. We're looking for 2, 3 potential guys that we want to bring in because, again, what they're trying to build is depth and rotation. And I've talked about that very much so on my channel. And for me, you get the guy in the draft. You bring back Za'Darius. You now have all of these different elements that you can rotate in and out on the edge, inside, whatever the case might be. You now have a very, very dominant, formidable front that, I'm just going to be honest, I don't think there's going to be almost any offensive line in the NFL that's going to be able to handle that. Because it's like, okay, even if you find a way to somehow handle the defensive line element, you still got the linebackers behind you with Barnes, Campbell, and freaking, Anzalone. You've still got a great safety duo in freaking Kirby and also in Brian Branch. And then you've got this cornerback room, which has Rakestraw, Arnold, DJ Reed, Amik Robertson. I mean, dude, you get those last pieces that I'm talking about. Bring back Smith and get that guy in that top edge rushing position that you want in the first round. You've got a stacked freaking defense. And then on top of that, we already know we got a stacked freaking offense. So it's like literally at that point, the only thing that's going to be able to stop the Lions is injuries and themselves, which primarily goes more towards coaching. Because the players, they know what's expected of them. As Campbell said in his recent interview, the players have stepped up. They have established themselves as the leaders of the team. It's their team. They don't need the coaches to tell them what to do. They're doing it themselves naturally without prompting. So for me, that's why I think that this is a perfect situation for the Lions and why they're not sweating this whole thing. And again, why I believe that the fans should not be sweating it. Because when I look at it, it's a no-lose situation for the Lions. All they can do is go up from here. And when you consider how far up they went last year, there's not much further left to go. Just saying. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end this episode. I believe I've provided my points. So having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all also, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content I push out. Also want to encourage y'all, please make sure that you share this content, whether it's here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever the case might be. But I also hope that everybody got something out of this content. I hope you all were able to, get something that you truly enjoyed. You were also able to think about it. Maybe it gave you a different point of view. And whether that's the first time you're watching me or you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I truly hope that's the case. Also hope everyone has something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.